Amelia Burke stood at the entrance of Galactic Academy, clutching her small travel bag. The massive crystal doors towered above her, shimmering with colors that didn't exist on Earth. Students of various species walked past her, some with multiple limbs, others floating instead of walking, many giving her curious or dismissive glances. "Just breathe," she whispered to herself. This was what she had worked for since the day Earth joined the Galactic Confederation 3 years ago. Being the first human exchange student at the most prestigious school in the galaxy was both an honor and a burden. A blue-skinned humanoid with silver markings approached her. Human student Amelia Burke. The translator device clipped to his uniform converted his clicks and whistles into English. "Yes, that's me," she replied, trying to stand tall despite feeling small. "I am Assistant Dean Zorvan. Follow me to process your arrival." He turned without waiting for her response. As they walked through the grand hall, Amelia felt eyes on her from every direction. The Academy housed students from over 20 advanced civilizations, all of which had been spacefaring for centuries or millennia. Compared to them, humans were newcomers, barely out of their planetary cradle. "Your species has only recently achieved space travel," Zorvan said as they walked. Many here questioned the decision to admit humans so soon. Amelia nodded. "We may be new to the stars, but we learn quickly." Zorvan made a sound that might have been a laugh. "So I've heard. Your quarters are in the East Wing, Level 3. Your roommate is Triz, a Veldarian third-year student." After completing her registration and receiving her student identification chip, Amelia found her way to her room. The door slid open to reveal a split living space. One half was filled with hanging vines and a strange mist. On the other side was a simple bed and desk, clearly meant for her. A slender figure emerged from the mist. Triz had pale green skin and large almond-shaped eyes. "You are the human." Her voice sounded like gentle bells. "Yes, I'm Amelia. Nice to meet you." Triz nodded politely but kept her distance. "I have prepared your side according to human environmental requirements. The shared bathroom is adapted to both our biologies." "Thank you," Amelia said, placing her bag on the bed. "I'm looking forward to learning about Veldarian culture." "Indeed," Triz replied without enthusiasm before retreating back into her misty corner. The next morning, Amelia arrived early for her first class, Interspecies Diplomacy with Professor Xalter. The classroom was arranged in rising semicircles, and she took a seat in the middle row. As other students filed in, they filled seats far from her, leaving an empty space all around. Professor Xaltar entered last. He was a Zentari, with 4 arms and skin that shifted colors with his emotions. Currently, he was a neutral shade of orange. He surveyed the class, and his gaze lingered on Amelia. "Welcome to another term," he began. "I see we have a human joining us, the first at our academy." All eyes turned to Amelia. "Today we will discuss the diplomatic challenges of integrating primitive species into galactic society. History shows us that species who join the Confederation before developing their own interstellar travel often struggle to contribute meaningfully." Amelia felt her face grow hot. It was clear who he was talking about. During the lesson, Professor Xalter called on students for their opinions. When he finally acknowledged Amelia's raised hand, his skin shifted to a doubtful purple. "Humans have adapted to challenges throughout our history," she said. "We've overcome limitations through creativity and persistence." "An admirable sentiment," Professor Xalter replied. "But adaptation requires time that galactic politics rarely allows. The question remains whether humans can adapt quickly enough to be useful members of the Confederation." As class ended, Amelia gathered her materials, trying to ignore the whispers around her. A 6th student bumped into her deliberately, causing her tablet to fall. "Sorry," the alien said without sounding sorry at all. "Didn't see you down there." Amelia picked up her tablet and straightened her shoulders. Day 1 wasn't going well, but she hadn't expected it to be easy. She was here to prove that humans belonged among the stars, and that was exactly what she intended to do. no matter how many obstacles stood in her way. 2 weeks into the semester, Amelia still felt like an outsider. She struggled with the advanced technology that other students used effortlessly. In her quantum mathematics class, the equations floated in 3 dimensions, requiring mental calculations that alien students performed naturally. For Amelia, it was like learning to swim by being thrown into the ocean. The food in the academy's dining hall was another challenge. Most of it was designed for non-human digestive systems. Amelia often left meals still hungry, surviving on the limited human-safe options and supplement packs from Earth. One afternoon, as she sat alone with her bland protein meal, someone approached her table. "Mind if I join you?" Always good to see another human face. Amelia looked up to see a young man with dark curly hair and warm brown eyes. He held a tray of the same unappealing human-safe food. "Please do," she said, relieved to hear an unfiltered human voice. "I'm Noah Martinez. Came here last semester as part of the preliminary exchange program." He sat down across from her. "Amelia Burke, you're the only other human I've seen here." Noah grinned. "There are only 4 of us total. The others are in advanced research, so they rarely come to the main campus." He lowered his voice. "First few weeks are rough, huh?" "That's putting it mildly," Amelia admitted. "Half my professors act like I'm a talking dog who wandered into their classroom." Noah laughed. "It gets better." "Sort of. Come on, I want you to meet some friends." He led her to another table where 2 non-humans sat. One looked like a walking plant with blue-green leaves and vines that moved constantly. The other had 4 arms, gray skin, and large goggle-like eyes. "This is kelp," Noah said, pointing to the plant being. "And that's Vex. They're the reason I'm passing my classes." "A pleasure to meet Earth's newest ambassador," Kelp said, her voice sounding like rustling leaves. "I am still trying to understand why humans name their offspring after terrestrial vegetation," Vex added, adjusting her goggles. "But Noah assures me it is not meant as an insult." Amelia smiled. "It's nice to meet you both." Over the meal, Amelia learned that Kelp was fascinated by human biology, especially how humans continued to function with so many important parts exposed. Vex was an engineering prodigy who appreciated human innovation, calling it impressively functional despite technological limitations. "The way you solve problems with limited resources is quite remarkable," Vex explained. "Most species wait until they have ideal tools. Humans just make do." After lunch, they showed Amelia shortcuts around campus and secret study spots. For the first time since arriving, she felt like she might belong. The next day, in adaptive technology class, the instructor challenged students to repair a damaged communication device using only basic tools. Most alien students were stumped without their specialized equipment. But Amelia, drawing on her Earth education where resources were limited, quickly improvised a solution using wire and parts from other devices. "Unorthodox but effective," the instructor noted with surprise. Several students looked at her with newfound curiosity. As the days passed, Amelia started noticing tensions among different alien groups. The Dravak students, with their rigid posture and scaled skin, kept to themselves and spoke in hushed tones. The telepathic Azurians, with their large pale eyes, seemed increasingly agitated around them. "Political stuff," Noah explained when she asked. "The Dravaks think the Confederation gives too much power to younger species. The Ashurians support more inclusion. It's been getting worse recently." During an interspecies relations seminar, 2 students, a Dravaks and an Ashurian, nearly came to blows over a debate about representation rights for newly discovered civilizations. "The Confederation grows weak by including primitives who cannot contribute," the Dravak student argued, glancing meaningfully at Amelia. Academy security quickly separated them, but the tension remained thick in the air. Later, Noah pulled Amelia aside in a quiet corridor. "I've been monitoring transmissions from outside. Something big is happening in Confederation politics. Military movements, emergency sessions closed to public view." "Should we be worried?" Amelia asked. Maybe, Noah said. But remember, humans are good at surviving crises. It might be our most valuable trait here. Amelia nodded, not knowing how soon his words would be tested. A month into the semester, Amelia found herself in physical adaptation training, a required course for all students. The Academy's massive gym changed its gravity, temperature, and atmosphere to challenge different species. Today's setting was high gravity with thin air. Continuing our endurance tests, the instructor, a muscular four-armed Quillere named Coach Draz, announced, "Complete 5 circuits of the obstacle course under these conditions." Many alien students excelled in their native environments but struggled in others. Amelia watched as a graceful Azurian, normally quick and agile, moved sluggishly in the heavy gravity. When her turn came, Amelia felt her body strain against the increased weight. Every movement required double the effort. But unlike many of her classmates, humans evolved on a planet with varying conditions. She had hiked in mountains where the air was thin and swam in deep water under pressure. Halfway through the course, Amelia noticed she was passing students who had started before her. Her heart pounded and her muscles burned, but she kept moving steadily. "Remarkable," Coach Draz said when she finished 3rd overall. "Most species specialize for their home conditions. Humans seem built for adaptation itself." Several students looked at her with new interest. Others, particularly the Dravaks who normally dominated physical trials, seemed annoyed by her performance. Later that day in xenobiology, Professor Ilara, a tall, slender being with silvery skin, asked Amelia to stay after class. "Your analysis of cross-species viral adaptation was quite insightful," the professor said. "Humans approach problems differently than most students here." "We're used to working with limited information," Amelia replied. "That may be more valuable than you realize," Professor Ilara said thoughtfully. "In the sciences, it's often what we don't know that matters most." The next week, in diplomatic crisis management, students participated in a simulation of a hostage negotiation. Teams represented different species dealing with pirates who had captured a transport ship. Most groups approached the problem using standard Confederation protocols, with mixed results. When Amelia's team took their turn, she suggested an unorthodox tactic. "What if we pretend to agree while secretly positioning a rescue team?" she proposed. "The pirates expect us to follow typical negotiation patterns." Her plan worked surprisingly well. Even Professor Zalter seemed impressed, though he merely noted that unconventional approaches occasionally succeed when traditional methods are anticipated. After class, Triz, her roommate, actually initiated a conversation for the first time. "Your solution was clever," she said. "It would not have occurred to a Veldarian." "Human history is full of conflicts," Amelia explained. "We've had lots of practice thinking from an opponent's perspective." That evening, Amelia joined Noah and their friends in the library. Kelp was explaining something unusual she had noticed. "During my meditation by the lake, I sensed extreme agitation from passing Dravak students," she said. "Plant species like hers could detect emotional changes through subtle chemical signals. They've been having secret meetings," Vex added, lowering all 4 of her arms onto the table. "My cousin works in central communications. Something big is happening." Noah nodded. "I've been monitoring Confederation news feeds. There are reports of Dravak's fleet movements near border systems." "Could it just be military exercises?" Amelia asked. "Maybe," Noah said. "But last night I discovered something interesting. Humans are more resistant to Azurian telepathy than most species." Amelia frowned. "How did you discover that?" "An Azurian tried to read my thoughts during a debate. He seemed frustrated that he couldn't get clear readings." Noah tapped his temple. "Apparently our brains are chaotic and unpredictable compared to most species. Is that good or bad?" Amelia asked. "Could be very good," Vex said. "If tensions keep increasing, psychic resistance might become important." Their conversation was interrupted by a commotion across the library. 2 students, a Dravaks and a Zenturi, were shoving each other between the shelves. Security drones quickly moved in to separate them. Third incident this week, Kelp noted worriedly. Never seen this much conflict at the academy before. As they left the library, Professor Ilara passed by, looking concerned. She nodded to Amelia and said quietly, "Keep your wits about you, Miss Burke. Humans' adaptability may soon be more valuable than anyone expected." It started as an ordinary day. Amelia sat in Professor Ilara's xenobiology lab, working with Noah, Kelp, and Vex on their group project about cross-species immune responses. The lab was filled with students from various planets, all focused on their work. Amelia looked up from her microscope. The human sample shows increased white blood cell activity compared to the others. Before her friends could respond, the lights flickered. The holographic displays around the room went dark. The lab fell silent as everyone looked around in confusion. "System malfunction," someone asked. Then the emergency lights came on, bathing everything in a dim red glow. Professor Ilara moved quickly to the door, but it was already locked. "Stay calm," she said, but Amelia noticed the concern in her silver eyes. The communication panel on the wall beeped. Professor Ilara pressed the button, and a voice spoke in the standard Confederation language. "Attention all Academy personnel. This facility is now under Dravak's control. Remain where you are. Do not attempt to leave your current location. Compliance will ensure your safety." The message repeated once more before the panel went silent. Students began whispering nervously. "It's actually happening," Noah said quietly, moving closer to Amelia. "The coup we've been hearing rumors about." Professor Ilara returned to their group. "This is not a drill or exercise," she said in a low voice. "The Dravaks have been planning this across multiple worlds." "Why the Academy?" Amelia asked. "We have children of ambassadors, government officials, and planetary leaders here," the professor explained. "Perfect hostages to control the Confederation response." A loud bang echoed from the corridor outside. Several students flinched, and a Shurian in the corner began making a high-pitched keening sound of distress. "What do we do?" Vex asked, her four hands nervously adjusting her goggles. Professor Ilara looked around the room. "We wait. The Confederation will respond." But Amelia wasn't so sure. She remembered Earth history, how waiting for rescue often led to disaster. She glanced at Noah, who nodded slightly. They needed a plan. Suddenly, the lab door slid open. 3 Dravaks entered, wearing military uniforms and carrying weapons. Their scaled skin was dark red with black patterns, and their eyes were narrow and focused. Students backed away. "Everyone against the wall," ordered the lead Dravaks, pointing his weapon. Most students complied immediately, some trembling visibly. Amelia noticed many seemed frozen with shock, having never experienced violence in their privileged lives. As she moved slowly toward the wall, Amelia's mind raced. Her heart pounded, but unlike most of her classmates, the adrenaline sharpened her thoughts rather than paralyzing them. "This room is now secure," one Dravaks said into a communication device. 26 students and 1 professor contained. "What are your intentions?" Professor Ilara asked calmly. "Silence," snapped the lead Dravaks. "The Dravaks Liberation Front is assuming its rightful place of leadership in the Confederation. Those who do not resist will not be harmed." Amelia caught Noah's eye. He subtly indicated his pocket, where she knew he kept his modified communication device. If anyone could bypass whatever systems the Dravaks were using to control communications, it would be him. "The humans," another Dravak said, pointing at Amelia and Noah. "Keep them separated from the others," General Krull's orders. As they were pulled away from the group, Amelia's mind clicked into focus. The Dravaks knew something about humans that made them cautious. That could be an advantage. 2 guards positioned themselves at the door while another watched the students. The leader left, presumably to secure other areas. Amelia looked around the lab, noticing the ventilation ducts, the emergency equipment cabinet, the various alien devices that could potentially be repurposed. Earth history was filled with stories of resistance against overwhelming odds. When the guard turned away momentarily, Kelp caught Amelia's eye and subtly extended a vine, showing she was ready to help. Vex gave an almost imperceptible nod. Amelia took a deep breath. She was just a human transfer student until today. Now she needed to become something more. 2 days after the Dravaks takeover, the academy had been transformed. Armed guards patrolled every corridor. Students were confined to designated areas. The faculty were held in the central administration building. According to whispers, the academy was now just one piece in a larger Dravaks rebellion across multiple systems. Amelia and Noah had been placed in a small classroom with other high-risk students, mostly those with military or political connections. 2 Dravaks guards stood at the door day and night. Food came once a day, barely enough to sustain them. "They're dividing us by species," Noah whispered as they sat against the back wall, keeping potential resistance separated. Amelia nodded. "They're especially worried about humans. But why? We're supposed to be the primitive ones." "I think it's because we're unpredictable," Noel said. "And we're used to violence in a way many of these species aren't." He was right. During the takeover, Amelia had noticed how many alien students froze in shock at the sight of weapons. Violence was foreign to their worlds of advanced technology and diplomatic solutions, but Earth's history was different. That night, while one guard dozed and the other checked his communication device, Amelia felt a slight movement beneath her hand on the floor. A thin green vine was growing through a tiny crack in the wall. She recognized it immediately as an extension of kelp. The vine left a small object before retreating. Amelia covered it with her hand and waited until the guards changed shifts before examining it. It was a tiny communication button, similar to what they used in labs. When she pressed it against her ear, she heard Kelp's voice, barely audible. "Amelia, can you hear me? We formed a resistance group." Vex hacked into a maintenance panel. "We're using the plant communication system to bypass Dravak's control." "I hear you," Amelia whispered. "Where are you?" "Science wing, ventilation room. The Dravaks don't guard it because the atmosphere is toxic to them. But Florians like me can breathe, they're fine." "Is there a plan?" Amelia asked. "Not yet. Most students are too scared to act. But we know you humans think differently about conflict." That night, Amelia barely slept. Instead, she thought about Earth history, about resistance movements, and guerrilla tactics. By morning, the beginnings of a plan had formed in her mind. During the next food delivery, she managed to communicate with Noel. Together, they began mapping guard rotations and identifying potential allies among the other captive students. On the 3rd day, they received news that shocked everyone. The Dravaks commander, General Krull, arrived at the academy. His holographic image appeared in every room. "Citizens of the Galactic Academy," he said, his scaled face stern. "The old Confederation system has failed. The Dravaks are assuming control to restore proper order. Your safety depends on your cooperation." When the message ended, an Ashurian student in their room began to weep softly. "My father is on the Confederation Council," she said. "If they resist, the Dravaks will use us as leverage." That evening, Noah revealed what he had been working on. Using parts smuggled by Kelp through the cracks in the wall, he had modified the communication button into a device that could temporarily disable the electronic locks. "It will only work once," he warned, "and we'll have about 10 seconds before the backup systems activate." Through the plant network, they learned that other resistance cells were forming. Vex had gathered engineering students who were creating makeshift tools. A group of Zentari medical students were preparing emergency supplies. "We need to coordinate," Amelia told Kelp through the communication button. "Humans have an advantage here." "What advantage?" Kelp asked. "We're used to making do with limited resources. We understand conflict. Most importantly, we don't rely on technology as much as other species." Amelia paused. "And the Dravaks know it. That's why they've isolated us." The next morning, A new development changed everything. Professor Xalter was seen walking freely with the Dravax, not as a prisoner but as an ally. He's collaborating with them, Noah said, watching through the small window in their door. Amelia nodded grimly. Then we need to act soon, before they realize what we're planning. She looked around at the other alien students, who now watched her with hope rather than condescension. In their eyes, being human had suddenly become a strength, not a weakness. Time to show them what humans do best, she said quietly. Adapt and overcome. A week into the occupation, Amelia's resistance group had grown. Using Kelt's plant network for communication, they connected with students across the academy. Noah's technical skills helped them map the Dravax security systems. They gathered supplies, created basic weapons from lab equipment, and planned their counterattack. The ventilation system is our advantage, Amelia explained during a secret meeting in the maintenance tunnels. 10 students from different species had managed to escape their confinement areas using the techniques she taught them. The Dravax rely on technology. They don't realize these old manual passages exist beneath the main corridors. Vex nodded, her 4 arms tinkering with a device made from spare parts. Their security is focused on digital systems. They never expected physical infiltration. What exactly is our plan? Asked a Zentari student named Rill, who had joined them after learning his homeworld had been attacked. Amelia unfolded a crude map she had drawn on fabric torn from her uniform. We need to take back control in stages. First, free more students to increase our numbers. Second, secure a communication array to contact Confederation forces. Third, disable the shield generators so help can arrive. The Dravax have superior weapons, pointed out a nervous Ashurian. True, Amelia said, but we have something they don't expect. We're not fighting conventionally. She explained how Earth history was filled with examples of smaller forces defeating larger ones through guerrilla tactics. The concept was new to many alien students who came from worlds where conflicts were settled through formal channels or technology. That night, they launched their first operation. Using Noah's device, they freed 20 more students from a secured classroom. The Dravax guards never saw them coming through the maintenance tunnels below. Among the rescued students was Triz, Amelia's roommate. Though still reserved, Triz now looked at Amelia with something like respect. The Veldarian Council always said humans were too aggressive to be trusted. Triz told her as they hurried through the dark passage. Now I see that sometimes aggression is necessary. Their second mission was riskier. They needed to access the communications center, which was heavily guarded. Amelia developed a plan that used each species' natural abilities. Kelp created a distraction by triggering a rapid growth of toxic plants in one corridor. The Ashurians used their limited telepathy to confuse the guards. Vex and her engineering team disabled security cameras. Amelia led a small team through the chaos, using techniques from Earth military history. They moved silently, coordinating with hand signals, exploiting every shadow and blind spot. When they reached the communications center, 2 Dravax guards stood watch. Amelia approached them head-on, pretending to be lost and frightened, while Noah and Rill circled behind. The distraction worked. Within minutes, they had control of the room. I need 10 minutes, Noah said, fingers flying over the alien console. Their encryption is complex. As he worked, the door burst open. Professor Xalter stood there, his color shifting to angry red. I knew humans would be trouble, he said, a Dravax weapon in his hand. Your primitive aggression makes you dangerous. It's not aggression, Amelia countered, slowly moving to shield Noah. It's adaptability. Humans face challenges by finding new solutions, not by forcing others to submit. Xalter's color flickered. The Dravax believe strength comes from control and superiority. They promised my species high status in the new order. At what cost? Amelia asked. Look around you. Is this the academy you wanted? Students living in fear, learning replaced by obedience. For a moment, Doubt showed in Salter's eyes. Then alarms blared throughout the facility. "General Kroll knows what you're doing," Salter said, his weapon wavering. "He's called for reinforcements." "Choose a side, Professor," Amelia said calmly, despite her racing heart. "History is happening now. Do you want to be remembered as someone who enabled tyranny, or someone who helped stop it?" Behind her, Noah whispered, "I've broken through. We can send a message." Salter looked at the weapon in his hand, then at the students watching him. His skin shifted to a color Amelia had never seen before. "Send your message," he said quietly. "I will buy you time." The message to Confederation forces was sent, but their troubles were far from over. Security drones swarmed the corridors as General Kroll ordered a complete lockdown. Amelia and her team barely escaped the communications center, with Professor Salter creating a diversion that allowed them to slip away. "We need to reach the shield generators," Amelia said as they huddled in a maintenance shaft. "Even if our message got through, rescue ships can't land while the defensive shields are active." Noah pulled up a schematic on a stolen datapad. "The generators are in the lower levels, heavily guarded. It's the most secure area in the academy now." "Then we need a bigger distraction," Amelia said. She looked at the diverse group around her, students from a dozen different worlds who now followed her lead without question. "And we need to use everyone's strengths." They developed a plan that required perfect timing. Kelp and other plant-based species would trigger the Academy's biological contamination protocols in the East Wing. The engineering students, led by Vex, would cause power fluctuations in the West Wing. While Drevak's forces were responding to these diversions, Amelia would lead a small team to the shield generators. As they prepared, Triz approached Amelia. "Why do you fight so hard?" "The Drevaks have superior numbers and weapons." Amelia considered the question. "On Earth, we have a saying. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Humans learned this lesson through our history." Triz nodded slowly. "My people believe in waiting for proper authorities to solve problems, but sometimes there is no one else to act." The plan was set in motion at what would have been dawn, if they could see the sun. Alarms blared across multiple sectors. Dravak's troops ran in different directions, responding to the chaos. Amelia's team moved silently through the confusion, using routes the Dravaks didn't know existed. When they reached the access corridor to the shield generators, 4 Dravaks guards blocked their path. There was no way around them. "We need to draw them away," whispered Rill, the Zentari student. "No," Amelia said, thinking quickly. "We need to go through them." "Noah, do you still have that sonic device you were working on?" Noah nodded and pulled out a small device he had built from Academy equipment. "It emits a frequency that affects Dravak's inner ear balance. Not tested yet." "Now's the time," Amelia said. The device worked better than expected. The guards collapsed, disoriented and unable to stand. Amelia's team rushed past them into the generator room, a massive chamber filled with humming equipment. "How much time do we need?" Amelia asked Noah as he began working on the control panel. 5 minutes to bypass security. Another 3 to power down safely," he replied. "We might not have that long," she said, hearing heavy footsteps approaching. The door slid open. General Kroll himself stood there, flanked by elite guards. His scaled face showed cold anger. "The human troublemaker," he said, looking at Amelia. "I should have eliminated you immediately. Primitives always resort to violence." "We're defending ourselves against your violence," Amelia replied, stepping forward to keep his attention on her while Noah worked behind her. "Humans don't start fights, but we finish them." General Kroll laughed. "Your species is barely space-capable. What can you possibly understand about galactic power?" "We understand freedom," Amelia said. "And we understand that bullies are the same everywhere, no matter how advanced their technology." The general's eyes narrowed. "Your Confederation friends won't save you. Even if your message reached them, they can't penetrate our shields." "Maybe not," Amelia agreed, "but they're not the only ones who received our message. At that moment, the academy shook with a powerful impact. Emergency lights flashed. "What was that?" demanded Kroll, momentarily distracted. "That," Amelia said with a slight smile, "is the Academy's own defense system activating from the inside. Professor Ilara had emergency access codes. While you were busy chasing us, other students were freeing the faculty." Kroll raised his weapon. "It doesn't matter. Once I eliminate you, your resistance falls apart." "Almost done," Noah whispered urgently behind her. Amelia tensed, ready to move. "You still don't get it, General. Humans never fight alone." From the ventilation shaft above, Kelp dropped into the room, releasing a cloud of spores that caused the Dravak's guards to choke and stumble. From the side entrance, Vex and her team appeared with improvised weapons. As chaos erupted, Noah shouted, "Shields down." With the shields down, Confederation rescue forces arrived within minutes. Their ships landed on the Academy grounds, and troops secured the facility sector by sector. The Dravak soldiers, now cut off from their main forces, began to surrender. In the shield generator room, General Kroll refused to accept defeat. He lunged at Amelia, weapon raised. She dodged his attack, using the close-quarters combat training that all Earth students received. Years of human martial arts had prepared her for this moment. With a swift movement, she redirected his momentum and sent him crashing into a control panel. Before he could recover, Confederation security officers rushed in and took him into custody. "This isn't over, human," Kroll snarled as they led him away. "The galaxy will never accept your primitive kind as equals." "We don't need to be accepted as equals," Amelia replied calmly. "We just need to be recognized for what we bring to the table." 3 days later, the Academy began to return to normal. In the Grand Hall, the Academy director addressed the gathered students and faculty. "The Dravak's rebellion has been contained," she announced, "thanks in large part to the warning that came from this Academy. Your resistance prevented the rebels from using you as hostages and gave the Confederation time to respond." She paused, her large eyes scanning the crowd before settling on Amelia. "We have also learned an important lesson. Our curriculum has failed to recognize valuable traits in species we considered less advanced. The human students, in particular, demonstrated abilities that our academic metrics do not measure: adaptability under pressure, innovative thinking, and determination in the face of overwhelming odds." After the assembly, Professor Ilara approached Amelia. "The Xenobiology Department is establishing a new research focus on human adaptive capabilities. We would like you to help develop it." Amelia smiled. "I'd be honored." Later that day, she sat with Noah, Kelp, Vex, and Triz in the Academy garden. The damage from the conflict was still visible in some areas, but repairs were underway. "I never understood humans before," Triz said, her usual reserve gone. "My culture values stability and careful planning. Your ability to improvise seemed chaotic and dangerous. Now I see it differently." Vex nodded, all 4 hands busy repairing a small drone. "Most advanced species specialize and become very good at specific things. Humans remain generalists. In stable times, specialization seems superior. In crisis, adaptability wins." Kelp extended a friendly vine toward Amelia. "The Florian Council has requested more human exchange students. They believe your perspective would benefit our world." Noah grinned. "Looks like humans are suddenly popular in the galaxy." Professor Zaltar approached their group, his color a humble blue-gray. "Miss Burke, I owe you an apology. I judged your species based on outdated criteria." "We all have biases to overcome," Amelia replied. "Indeed," the professor said, "I have proposed a new course for next semester: Earth History and Strategic Thinking. Would you consider being the guest lecturer?" As Amelia nodded, a group of first-year students walked by, looking at her with open admiration. One of them, the young Ashurian, stopped briefly. "Is it true you led the resistance with just basic tools?" she asked eagerly. "It wasn't just me," Amelia said. Everyone contributed their unique abilities. But it was your human approach that made it possible. The student persisted. My parents want me to learn more about Earth culture now. After the student left, Amelia looked around at her friends, thinking about how much had changed. 2 months ago, she had arrived as an outsider, representing a species considered barely worth notice. Now, human qualities were seen as valuable across the galaxy. That evening, she returned to her room to find it completely restored. Triz had even added some earth plants to the decor. For a more balanced environment, Triz explained, I find I appreciate earth elements more than I expected. Amelia smiled as she looked out the window at the academy grounds. The next semester would begin soon, with new students, new challenges, and a new understanding of humanity's place among the stars. She had arrived as just a human transfer student. She would continue as an ambassador for her species' unique gifts to the galaxy.